if I may quote my two children, when I brought them back from Houston in the early part of 83, which is still commemorating with the early part of Wu Yi, they make 6 remarks, 2 of them make 6 remarks, and all of them are quite true. So one make a very positive remarks about Chinatown, and he was about 5 at the time. And he said, "Oh, I love this community. It's so full of life. It's full of people. People look happy and busy, and they laugh. They laugh, they look so happy. But their jobs are so hard." I guess he was observing all these grocery workers who's pushing the heavy cart of grocery and discarding the vegetable from their cart. He said, "Oh, if I want to work back in Chinatown, I don't want to take their job. Their job is too hard, way too hard."
Absolutely. Oh, I just want to echo that. Listen, when I came here, we were, Wu Yi was just a child care and a resource center, right? And it was right on Sacramento Street, right in the heart of Chinatown. And I just have to say, it was so exciting and stimulating environment. And what's really, really important is that the children were probably, there were so many opportunities to like walk in the community and the community reflect back what was familiar in some ways at home. I mean, that was must have been a comforting feeling inside. But for me, the richness was just everywhere. It was like a sensory experience. And I have to say, everything a young child wants to learn about foods and colors and everything they needed to learn, it was just right there on Stockton Street,
Oh, well, one thing that's entirely disappeared from Chinatown now are the sewing factories. We had many sewing factories in Chinatown at that time, and many parents actually bring their children to the sewing factories to work. And I don't know many people know that, right? But it's part of just survival. Think about it. When you're new to this country, you need 2 incomes to survive often. So women take jobs in the sewing factories to help to supplement the incomes, to work. And then we have gangs, youth gangs. And I remember actually they are clear kind of like kind of territory kind of fight, and we actually sometimes see some of the fights on the streets. Pretty turbulent kind of times, yeah.
What I noticed is that at that time there were not too many Chinese outside the Chinatown area. Outside Sacramento and Broadway area. And also there were not too many stores, groceries, or restaurants around. So when it's the weekends, people from suburbs all came to Chinatown to shop and buy their groceries. And also it was not crowded. And parents at that time feel kind of lonely. Outside their home, there are not too many people that speak their own language, and they had language problem. But nowadays, there are more Chinese in the neighborhood. Everywhere you can hear they speak Cantonese, Mandarin. Also, it's crowded now with lots of restaurants, grocery stores, and the society become more complicated nowadays, not as safe as before, I should say. Even though at that time there were gangsters, but we felt safe when we walk in the neighborhood. And now it's not the same.
I think another thing is actually the change in terms of how the Chinatown community or even the Chinese immigrant communities feel. The way you describe it, I think is really good. It's accurate. It's a little bit isolated, and separated from the main community. And there are a few organizations, particularly our family associations, district associations, who kind of speak up for all the Chinese people. and they tried, they kind of like, we need an intermediary to talk to the outside. And I think the 70s is when it kind of started to change, that, you know, different, I guess, you know, younger people from the family associations, younger professionals, new immigrants, all started to say, well, hey, maybe we don't all have the same needs. Actually, we probably don't, and we don't see things all the same way. And maybe there's a need to really organize and try to get our voice heard without having to go through just one channel or an intermediary. You know, we can speak up and we can advocate for services for the abused, you know, services for women who have been, you know, suffering from domestic violence. We can speak up for people with disability. We can speak up for children and families. So it just kind of grow the ball of actually activism and building a community is very strong. And I have to say, in the 70s and 80s, a real sense of, gee, we need to build a community, and we need to build it in many different ways, including housing, you know, and community building. So it's a beautiful times, even though it's a lot of challenges, you know.
Racial equity starts from home education. Parents should teach their children about racial equity. But at the same time, America is a big melting pot. So in the society, starting from early childhood education, if they receive right from the start the right approach to each other, they have the right education to treat each other equally and respect each other of the different culture and different race. Then, as what we said on its annual report this year, early start, early to rise. Together we raise the next generation to the next level. And it will be a racial equity society, a peaceful, happy society where people live in harmony.
So I thought about this. I just want to say, when you use the word racial equity, you know, I really feel it is, racial equity to me is a fundamental right. It's a right because it reflects the humanity in all of us. It really does. And so I just want to say, I said, and I think I mentioned it before, Wu Yi, I said 40 years ago they were interested in multicultural education and bilingual education. It was a way for everybody to experience other traditions, other cultures, and to begin the process of having positive experiences with people of all different backgrounds.
I think we have, again, you know, community movement and community development and building the community has certainly evolved, you know, over time, you know, because I think even though it started from a more immigrant-focused, community-focused organization, Wu Yi, as it stands now, actually is a citywide organization, serve many, many different communities, and certainly take to heart advocacy for young children of all ages and all ethnicity and all communities, and especially people who are underprivileged, and especially people who suffer, you know, discrimination from before, from history and you know, and all the historical events that led up to now. And I have to say, we are leading the way. I am very proud of Wu Yi. I have to say that, yeah.